Hey, this is Tracey with the Tracey's Keeping It Real show. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's so fun to have you here this afternoon as Tracey's Keeping It Real, and I got some wonderful guests in the studio. So excited to talk to them and find out more about home ownership and kind of how we get our funding. So we're gonna dive right in and talk. We've had a chance. Last time we talked about the recapping for the we wanted to recap on the first generation homebuyer community down payment assistance fund and its benefits. Now, today we're going to focus on the options for buyers who don't qualify for that program and the broad range of resources available. So, this afternoon, I want to introduce you to Denise. She's a realtor, Denisem.mazone. Mazone. She's a twin of longtime friend of mine and excited to have her in the studio. And then we have George, and George, that's George Gershon, and his wife is a good friend of mine. So I feel like we're at home, old home this afternoon, having fun talking about home ownership. So, we have realized the struggle that our community has with trust and banking and loans and then finding the right realtor that they can work with. There's so many obstacles to all of this for some people, others not so much. It's a smooth sail. So, Denise, I'm going to start with you this afternoon. I like the ladies first thought on how you do things. So, what should a potential home buyer be looking for in a realtor?
Well, thanks, Tracy, for having me. It is good to be here. Feels like at home once again. So the one thing that they should be looking for in a realtor is someone who is seasoned, someone that knows a lot about the programs that's out there that's offered. Not someone that's, you know, brand new to the business. Well, some people that are brand new to the business are very eager to learn and they're doing their best. But someone that's seasoned that can, take you to the right people to get the right resources.
And does season have anything to do with like knowing where the houses are, or when you say seasoned, what exactly would I be looking for in a seasoned realtor?
So everyone can find a house. I mean, we all have the same database basically. But the most important thing is that we're talking to the right lenders. All lenders are not created equal. And it's important to use lenders that can participate in these programs because some of them do not
Oh,
participate in down payment assistance programs.
oh, so that's interesting to know, and that probably just takes me right to George being a lender. And George, are you created equal, or are you? I mean, but honestly, how do you decide when and where to approach a mortgage? How does one decide when and where to approach a mortgage lender?
Well, thank you, Miss Tracy, for having me. And that's a great question. And a lot of my peers, realtor peers, and mortgage peers may not agree with my answer. If I had a choice or say in the matter, I would ask all buyers, prospective buyers, to start with a nonprofit. To start with one of the nonprofit agencies that have a non-interested or non-interested party. And once you go through the education, which is how I run my business, I believe education and resources are very important. So some of the local nonprofit agencies out there, the Homeownership Center and some other local ones, get the education first. Because then when you walk into a lender's office, you know the proper questions to ask. So many times you see person or persons walk into the office and they get told no. And that discourages them right away.
Okay, yeah.
If you walk into a place and they say no, just get up and leave. You're in the wrong place. One of our friends say it should never be a quick no, just a slow yes.
Mm-hmm.
And by taking the time to take the education, the courses, finding out that there are options out there, you don't need perfect credit, you don't need a ton of money, and you don't need, there are monies out there that are forgiven. So I think education and resources would be my first step, Miss Tracy, and start with the local nonprofit agencies and have them point you in the right direction.
I
Well,
agree.
and I agree because from what the process that I've been going through with working with different lenders and program managers here on this show is that the nonprofit benefit too is that they're not in it for a commission or they're not in it to sell you, they're in it to educate you. Is that kind of more of what the nonprofit model is that you're looking at, George?
It is, yes, ma'am. And I think, like Miss Denise said, not only all lenders are not created equal, all mortgage brokers and companies and banks are not created equal. Because if they were, we would only need one of them. All banks and mortgage companies don't offer the same programs, and it's hard for a mortgage person to, if they can't offer that program,
Mm.
to tell them to go somewhere else and get what's best for them,
Mhm.
because they're trying to put food on their table as well. Being seasoned as myself is, and Miss Denise said, I'm okay with telling someone, hey, this may not be the best opportunity for you. You may want to go somewhere else. Luckily, we can offer almost every program. But again, knowing the lender to go to, seeing multiple lenders, and again, once you go to the nonprofit first time homebuyer class, you're educated enough to ask the questions on what resources they do have available. So I think that puts them in the best position to get the best program for them and their family.
Nice, nice. Good answer there. So we have George. He's actually the branch manager at the CMG Home Loans. So he sees quite a few. Tell us what the CMG stands for, George.
So Chris, Michael, George. Um, no,
Good one, good one.
we the company I work for is amazing. It's actually owned by one person. It's one of the top 10 companies in the country, and his motto and his message is everybody should have an opportunity to buy a home. And that's why we have access to almost every program available. And if not, we have the freedom and the opportunity to bring that program or the new programs to our product and program team and get them installed immediately. Um, so anywhere from first time home buyer to the regular VA, FHA, and conventional loans, all the nonprofits, the county programs, the fresh generation programs, and even Sharia compliant Islamic financing we do locally.
Oh, okay.
So it's a wonderful company. I got lucky to be working to be part of the team and the mission.
And it's a small. It's just one man show. You say.
Well, no, it's a
I mean, as far as the ownership goes.
one man ownership, and I don't know the numbers exactly, but I'm assuming somewhere between a 30 and $40 billion company
Wow.
nationwide.
Nice.
We have a great presence locally. We're all part of the trade organizations and the nonprofits, and I believe everybody on my team and my partners and peers, we all teach and contribute to the home stretch and the education part of it as well.
Okay. Great. Wonderful. And then we have Denise here, and Denise has her own realty organization. It's a Mazone Real Estate Group, so it's a group of realtors. How many realtors do you have working with you,
Right now, I only
Denise?
have two,
Okay,
but I'm interviewing for more.
okay, good. So you're
Yeah,
looking for more
I
for
am.
those that are interested in homeowner or being a realtor and helping people get into homes. So
Yes,
that's good to know. That's good for people to know listening in.
absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit more about how should Denise, how should they decide to work with you, and what's some of the good reasons to work with your group, maybe in opposed to working with another realtor group.
So one of my passions is rebuilding our communities, right? And so I always say I do it one house at a time. And so I'm not going to try to just put you into anything because there's a thing called buyer's remorse too. So I take it personal, like the my business and what we do, and when we're out looking at houses and things, because I don't want you calling me up down the line. I hate this house. I had a call yesterday from a young lady. I've been here 2 years. I can't stay here anymore. It was another person's client, and so I don't want to get those calls. I really truly don't. And once again, just like when we grew up in this community, everybody owned their own home or everyone lived in a home. Nowadays, folks are flocking, living in all these nice, expensive apartments and things they really can't afford, right? So just trying to rebuild our community.
Nice, nice. And what happens, just out of curiosity, when someone does call you like that and they 2 years in, can they get out?
Well, yes and no, but we want to do what's best for them. So I always tell them be patient because they've gotten down payment assistance, so they're just going to have to live it out first for a couple years. They need at least 3 to 5 years. We have to make it make sense
Okay.
financially. I
Right.
don't want them to get into a bind just to try to get out of something. So just put a game plan together is basically what we're doing.
Nice. Well,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's just mellowing people out because
Yes.
they're anxious and their anxiety, and they're in a new house, and
Yes.
home ownership is fun, but it could be expensive, and maybe you run into things that you weren't prepared for, which we know is preparedness is very important to
Absolutely.
put money aside. So when we talk about key talking points as far as the importance of choosing a realtor, we talked about that experience with your first time home buyers. How kind of do you have a lot of first time home buyers in your with your clients, or have you got a lot of them that have already owned a home and they're just looking at getting into another one?
A little both.
Okay.
So, but since we have all this new down payment assistance dollars out, we're getting way more first time home buyers, so, which is nice, which is very nice. But the one thing that I want to focus on is foundational blacks. We need to get more foundational blacks into these homes.
Okay,
Um,
so what explain to what foundational blacks are.
Someone that can't be deported ever. Oh, I don't know. It's people that were part of the slave trade.
Okay.
You know, and so we have to, our numbers need to come up. They've gone down immensely from back in the 50s and 60s, whatever, and and other nationalities and stuff are just surpassing us. So we have to do better. I don't know what that magic is. There's something that's missing that I can't figure out.
Yeah, it's maybe a lot of hereditary. We haven't been able to be homeowners, or it's
Right.
not something that's passed on. So maybe it's new, and breaking that news cycle, getting people to be in the habit of owning homes and having homes that you can pass down,
Yes.
is maybe where the link was broken. So we need to fix it, and that's, I think, one of the first time homebuyer programs is helping to educate people. And I think that the
Yes.
jobs that you're doing are great to help educate the people, to help them to understand the need to be considering buying a home, and that is not scary, and that people are not just trying to rip you off, because that's a scare. That's why I think when you have first time home buyer programs and it's going through a nonprofit that's not there just to get a commission, I think it's helpful for people to know. And also going through the whole process of understanding, so that once you get to a George and
Mhm.
you aren't sure about what you're doing still because you're nervous now, you feel like you're in a place that's a safe place, because again it's back to the kind of a nonprofit setting versus maybe a big bank.
Oh, indeed. And the nice thing about the classes, we both teach at the class for the first time homebuyer classes. It's an 8 hour class, so it's all day. And I mean, they go through every single thing. So there's not there shouldn't be a mystery. And also, I tell the realtors, make sure you let people know when they come to you, you should be able to explain everything to them. If you don't understand, if they don't understand something, go get some more expert advice, whatever. But it's just, getting people to understand the whole process.
Right. And that's when you're making them one of the largest purchases in your life. It's
Yes.
understanding is critical, but it's not always easy, especially when you're nervous. So George, what are some of the red flags that people need to watch out for with a lender? Because we know there's been predatory lending out there, and that's been another thing that scared people away from wanting to look at home ownership.
Yeah, it is. It's generational, and historically there are a lot of red flags. And again, I mentioned before, Miss Tracy, is if you walk into a lender or bank and they say no, get up. You're in the wrong place. Get up and leave. There should never be a no. They should be willing to work with you. And I think we mentioned first generation homebuyer programs, the MMCDC, which is the Midwest Minnesota Community Development Corporation. They're kind of disrupting how we look at home buying now.
Okay.
They're making you be underwritten by the lender that you're working with. They're making sure that you've taken the class. They're then making sure that it goes to their underwriting team. So it's a longer process, 4 to 6 weeks. But the key point is some of the thing that makes me excited is you mentioned people sometimes get discouraged from buying. when you are through with the MMCDC qualification process, you've been underwritten twice, and you already have a reservation letter with your name on it, saying that your funds are guaranteed. So like Miss Denise, when I send Miss Denise a buyer, they always have to be pre-approved. But how confident are you, maybe being your first time buying a home, first generation, no one in your family has bought a home, and you now have the confidence to shop with a guaranteed underwriter approval and a reservation letter that says, "Hey, Mr. Jack Johnson's approved, and you have the extra $35,000." So I think disrupting the normal flow, taking the time, doing the education, doing the consultation before you even take an application, and having the underwriter approval, um, Miss Denise, it not only makes you more confident, but when you make an offer on a house, and the listing agents and their agents are educated in these down payment assistance programs now. So the listing agent may say, "Is the down payment assistance guaranteed?" Because some of these monies run out,
Yeah.
and we've seen it when people are waiting 6 months to buy a house, and they finally get an offer accepted, and the money's gone.
Mhm.
With this program, it's guaranteed. The confidence, does that affect you when you're making an offer? Does that make it easier for you with your buyers?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, first of all, like you were saying, a lot of the listing agents really don't know about these programs too. They really don't. So when you walk in there and you can say, look, they've already been underwritten, they're pre-approved, it your offer looks a lot better than anyone else's.
Right. And why would the listing agents not know about the programs? Why aren't they connected? Is there a reason for that?
They don't have to be. That's not their audience.
Right.
They
Yeah.
some people pride themselves with just listing properties,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Yeah.
Some of them, I had one guy, he says, I'm taking names of every program that people are using. And I was like, oh, good idea. Because I'm going to figure out what's working, what's not working.
Right. Right.
So,
So for the first time home buyer to run into something like that, is that like a red flag? Is like you don't even know about these programs? Should I even be talking to you or?
well, our first time home buyers, no, we make them aware of all the programs that they qualify
Right.
for. So they don't have that problem. Once again, it goes back to all lenders, they're not created equal. Um, so if you go to a regular, you just walk in certain places and, they have people sitting behind the desk waiting to take an order for a mortgage, oh, either you're going to fit their criteria or you're not, you know. Um, like George said, it's never a no because what he's going to do is he's going to make a game plan for you. We're going to make it work out for you. You might not be able to, close in 6 months, but we're going to put something together within a year or so, or however long, whatever your situation is, we'll work it out. And if you go by that program, you will be successful. And I've seen it happen so many times.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So George, you mentioned something about the money running out on some instances, but as far as this program goes, it doesn't run out. So once you become connected, is when it's guaranteed, or how does that work?
Well, it does run out. The MMCDC received $100 million. One of the other state agencies received $50 million. The MMCDC currently, I want to say, has maybe over $70 million still left, so it will run out. But the importance of this is we mentioned consumer confidence, especially first-time home buyers, first-generation home buyers that they're not totally familiar with the process. Their money is reserved for 90 to 150 days.
Okay.
So the money cannot run out. So that puts confidence in the consumer, your borrower, their family, and also it sets some expectations and goals. You have a time frame to find the house that you're interested in. And if it does expire, we worked with the nonprofits before on multiple programs where they're willing to extend it as long as you update your approval with the proper documentation. But again, knowing the resources, Miss Tracy, knowing what's out there, um, work with a realtor, a lender, and the nonprofit. I think the nonprofit, again, I keep going back to it, it's very important because they are a non-interested third party and they have your best interest in mind. And some of these programs out there we can't even offer. The nonprofit has to request or I guess advise you that we think this client would be eligible for this program when we approve it. So they're kind of taking some of the monies out of the control of the lenders and the realtors and giving it to the people who most need the monies, which I think is a wonderful thing.
It is.
It is.
Absolutely. It
So
empowers the
resources,
buyers.
resources,
Yeah.
resources. Yes, ma'am.
Nice, nice. So Denise, walk us through a time where you a specific story that helped the first time home buyers achieve home ownership. And they, I guess they start off where and then they get to that door.
Oh, let's see. I have many stories like that. um, well, we just closed a deal on Friday. Met a young man, goes to the first time homebuyer class. He registered with the nonprofit, and did everything they told him to do. This young man started he worked nights for Walmart stocking for like the last 10 years or so. Um, and then he got a daytime job too. So he works two jobs,
Mhm.
and it's got, family. And so he just did everything right. He did everything right. If I would call him and say I need this, I need that, he would say, absolutely, I got it for you. Okay, Miss Mazone, okay, I got it. And I actually worked with George on it. And so he was so excited about, I don't care what it was, he was going to get it done, you know. And we went out, and it was really funny. He had certain things that he was looking for in a home, and probably about maybe I probably showed him about 10 houses total, and we found a place in Bloomington that he absolutely fell in love with. So we ended up closing on Friday, um, and I don't know what happened. It was something where I had to end up, and I typically don't do this, but of course I would if you need it. We were like $90 short, so I was like, take it out of my stuff. I don't care. We're
Yeah.
gonna close this today.
Yeah.
What's the big deal, right?
Yeah.
He was so excited. He was so happy. I mean, just so gracious. So here's a person who has worked all his life from our community, and he was able to provide a home for his family.
Nice, nice.
Mhm.
Now, when you say short, because I know if I'm a first time home buyer and I'm listening in, it's like, what am I short? What was the short? So that's
It's
the closing costs, right?
Yeah, it was just so they balance between the closer and the lender, they end up balancing everything out, and something had got missed or some, I don't know what happened actually, but it was only like $90. So it's not even, I didn't even think about it. I was
Right.
like, let's just do it. Otherwise, there, I don't know, you'd have to like resend it through underwriting or and all these different things. Whereas, and if I just give up $90, what's the big deal, right?
Yeah, not at all. Nothing. Nothing for you to gain another client down the road.
Gain
Just say yes.
gain a client. We got someone rebuilding our community,
Yeah.
home ownership. This man has worked so hard to get to this point. We've worked together probably for about 4 months, 3 months or so, and his was about 4 months, do you think?
Yeah, probably at least,
So
yeah.
his went fairly fast
Yeah.
compared to, some people.
Because I was going to ask you how long that process was with him, being that he's working two jobs and.
He would always make time. He
Mhm.
would all in between jobs. That's when we would meet up in between his two jobs,
Nice.
or he would be coming from one job, getting ready to go to the other one, and we would meet up early in the morning at 8 o'clock.
Well, that shows you that he was going to get that house. He was determined. He
Oh
was
yeah,
willing to do what it takes. I mean, we realize that the payment assistance is definitely a benefit, and it helps tremendously. However, there are still things we have to do in order to get there, in order to become that homeowner, and so
yes,
it's important that we understand that as well. So that was a good story, and I'm glad that he got in, and I hope he's able to take some time to enjoy it.
yes,
Sometimes we have to work hard to get what we want and don't always, we have to be able to sit back and try to figure out times to enjoy the work that we do. So how about George? Can you talk about address some common misconceptions such as self-selecting out of the process due to misunderstanding about finances? So how does that happen?
I think there's a few trends or things that we're seeing right now. Miss Denise mentioned it earlier where we have when there's limited inventory, people the landlords, the big buildings, they're building brand new shiny objects with gyms and pools. And is it cheaper to buy to rent sometimes than buy? It is, and you get all these new shiny objects with it. But those shiny objects don't provide generational wealth or allow you to make changes as you see fit. So I think that's one of the newer problems or trends that we're seeing is these new shiny apartment buildings because they know there's a need for rent. I think some of the others are, you mentioned, Ms. Tracy, earlier, generational wealth. Generation, if no one in your family has bought a home or purchased before, it's not something you're used to. You see, you may be nervous. There's a lot of government assistance out there that makes it easier and less expensive to live. But we have to provide the resources. And some basic stuff is you don't, some of the myths are you don't need 20% down. You can buy a house anywhere from 3 to 3.5 to 0% down. You can buy a house with $1,000 right now. And that's a real case scenario. It's you probably need a few more, like 2,000, but realistically, you only need $1,000. You don't need perfect credit. That's another myth out there. Depending on where you go, there's companies that will help you improve your credit, but you don't need a 660, 680 credit score. Does it help you and does it put you in a better situation financially? Yes, but it's not a requirement. And I think down payment assistance. Am I eligible? How do I get it? Do I have to pay it back? I think the educational piece of it and not wanting to owe somebody or not, not knowing where to go to start. I think that starting point, if you start off, if you go to school and your first day of school is great, you're going to have a good day.
Yeah.
Starting off with the right resource, someone with a smile pointing you in the right direction, saying, hey, if it's 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, or 6 years, we'll take this home buyer journey with you. Support. I've had a client that we worked with in the class, went to another lender and um, couldn't get anything done. But over the last 4 to 6 months, new programs have gone out. So this young lady, single mother of three, went from being approved for 120,000 to 230,000 because the MMCDC first generation program. We also use something called Advancing Black Homeownership for foundational Black persons who were born here, another $45,000. So when you give someone $93,000, that makes their home a lot more affordable, and
I'd say it does.
and you have more options.
A lot more options.
And this is the first time I've ever seen this much down payment assistance in my whole career.
Wow.
So that's why I'm out here talking to, people in the community on a daily basis to start applying for these programs, get a house, stop living in these temporary situations, these apartments. And I even tell people that are on Section 8, you can buy a house. There's so many resources for you. So don't get pigeonholed in that because one day that might go away too. We just gotta do better, know better, do better.
And it helps to do it. And I think with all this assistance and then just the education and then running into being fortunate enough to run into people that really are sincere about wanting to help, which you have demonstrated by even helping this guy with this little shortage he had, being able to, instead of, well, let's go back to the drawing board because I can't help you, so that's great. But what happens if somebody does run into a situation where they want to back out of a realtor or back out of a lender? How does one do that?
Oh gosh, let me tell you. So I had a young lady who I met and she was just as nice as she was nervous, super super nervous, right? So she took the classes. She would talk to the people over at the nonprofit. She would call me. We went out. We looked for places. We found her a place. She writes a purchase agreement. She actually went through the land trust, Rondo land trust.
Okay.
Find this beautiful place for her. She gets there and she just gets really nervous and she leaves.
Oh.
And I was like, well, did the inspector say something to her? Because I saw her talk to him. And it turned out she was just very nervous. And then she called me and she says, I don't want you to call me. I need you to text me from now on or send me an email. And I'm like, is everything okay? Like, did somebody say something to you? Let me know because I'm going to straighten this out.
Yeah.
So anyways, I called our partners over at the nonprofit and I said, look, this is what's going on. He's like, I already know. She called me. So
calling everybody.
Yes. So I says, so she text me a couple, texts that weren't so nice. And I said, you know what? I can't even get upset with her. Something on my heart said, she's so afraid of success. I can't be afraid I can't get upset with her. And so I finally picked up the phone and I called her and I left her a message and I told her, I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to see you through this process. I said, I understand that I feel like you're afraid and I don't want you to be afraid. And so it took the late Chris Cruchon, Crutchfield, excuse me, Crutchfield. He was the attorney for Rondo, and they have to do an interview with an attorney, and because he has to explain everything to them. And so then Chris is looking at the paperwork, and he's like, "Oh my gosh!" He said, "I've never seen a person, for instance, get you so much down payment assistance dollars because she ended up getting the advancing black homeownership dollars as well." He's like, "You got an excellent realtor, right?" And she's like, "Oh yeah." It's like all of a sudden she perked up.
Wow.
It just all came together at that moment,
She had
and
heard from somebody else that she wasn't getting raked over the coals.
and he said, "You have had a heck of a team." He said, "Man," he said, "they have put everything together for you." And then she had a whole, yes, it all came together for her at that point. And I was saying, I knew something about her. I just couldn't get upset with her. You know what I'm saying? I had to just embrace her and just kind of go, okay, whatever. As long as you don't call me out my name.
Right,
Just give me.
right. Then there's a whole other, then that's another story.
But and she's doing just fine.
Okay, nice, nice. Now let's just say, and that's a good story, and I'm glad to hear that it ended that way. But what happens if they're sitting there, George, and they're in the middle of signing papers, and they say, you know what, I didn't like the way you just looked at me. I'm out. What happens from that point?
You know what, Miss Johnson, I wish you the best. If I understand, where everybody's not a fit for everybody. If you like, I can suggest, refer you to some other people or go back to the nonprofit and they can, refer you somebody. But everybody doesn't work well together, and maybe they're scared or maybe they're nervous, like Miss Denise said. But you have to respect their opinion. Um, and again, we in the mortgage industry, we don't sign contracts. Realtors do. We don't sign contracts. If you want to go somewhere else, go. I wish you the best. I can put a file together for you, send it to you. In the future, if you have any questions regarding your cost or anything, even not working together, someone on my team, right, we'd be glad to look it over for you. Again, as long as you're achieving home ownership or keeping on the path, um, please take whatever path you choose. And then you still reach out every week or two to see how everything's going and see if they have any questions. But if you're in home ownership to capture every business and make sure everybody stays with you, then you're not in it for the right reasons. And again, it's like dating. Everybody doesn't. First date's not always good. You may not get along with everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, you let them go and wish them the best.
You do.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Because you got to get with the right person and make it all work, and that's in every walk of life. So in this case, we're certainly talking about home ownership and getting down payment assistance, and then finding the right realtor and the right lender and people that you really can jive with and kind of really get to know them as you're going through this very once in a lifetime journey for some people. Some have bought several homes and some buy one and they're in it for a long time. So but how is it that you start with this class? A person can know that they're going to get, if they really like you, Denise, and it works out, you're with them through the whole process? Or when do you come into the process of this down payment assistance, and when does George come in? When does everybody come in? So I walk in to one of the homeowners, the first lender program facilities, and I talk to them, and then what happens?
So they'll refer them over to the class. You want to take your class first and foremost. Once again, I teach the class. George teaches a portion of the class as well. So I meet a lot of people there.
So is that a benefit for you to teach? I mean, I know it's time, but also do you end up getting a lot of clients that way?
I don't get a lot of clients that way, but I do get quite a few.
Okay.
And so from that point forward, I, you know, I talk to them and they choose what lender they want to work with. They would have been presented with a couple different lenders. Some people like to use, their mom's lender or whatever, but once again, we got to make sure that they're in the fold and and they have all the information and all the resources available to them. Sometimes they'll switch over after they start with one lender and they're like, wait a minute, but they don't accept this or that. They don't participate in these programs. So then they'll switch over to something that like whatever George, CMG. Um, and then we're just together. We're throughout the whole process, buying the house, the closing, and I always touch them after that as well. Within 30 days, 90 days, I always follow up and just continue. We'll just I've met plenty of friends that way.
Yeah. Nice,
Hmm.
nice. I know the home ownership process is a challenge, just getting through with the paperwork
Oh yeah.
and looking at, I think I looked at 67 homes.
Oh my goodness.
I probably was a client from you know where.
I know.
Found the
No.
perfect house. So,
No,
but
that's right.
but you have to have patience because you
Hmm.
run into people like me that are gonna look and look and look because they got a specific thing they're looking for. But I think it's helpful for people when they're out looking for homes to have specific things they're looking for.
Oh yeah, the
And
first
so,
thing you say is, "What are your needs and what are your wants?"
right,
Right?
right.
And then do they match up with reality? Because right now our inventory level is very low. We have like 2 months worth of supply on the market,
Wow.
whereas a balanced market is 6 months,
Mhm.
right? And we're just hitting, 2 months basically. So it's very, very low.
So is that why the challenge is when you mentioned earlier, George, about the new shiny buildings, it's because people get impatient? Is that kind of why they're flipping back to the renting? Or you
I,
think that's part of it?
I do. Yes, I definitely think. First of all, they might be scared. They might be nervous, and the process takes a long time sometimes. And sometimes persons come to you and they only have a month left on their lease to get out. Sometimes that doesn't allow us enough time, but I don't think I think the process is easier now. I think it takes a little longer, but the process is easier, and there's more opportunity for persons out there right now because of the programs. I, I think I think the affordability is probably the problem because the cost of living and your income hasn't increased as much as the housing costs have increased. And looking at these houses, people sometimes get distracted or they get annoyed with the long time of the process. But I think if you set proper expectations up front, and if they come to you in a proper time frame, that you can explain the process and walk through them with it. But again, I really think that affordability is the number one problem right now.
Mm-hmm.
People rather have a new house, rather have a new shiny apartment than buying a house built in 1936 that doesn't have all the bells and whistles.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense. I understand that. But again, generational wealth going forward and being a home buyer and having that tax benefit and calling something your own is a hard message to get across sometimes.
Well, it certainly is, and it's people just don't realize that being in your own space and making your own noise and fixing it the way you want, putting your own color carpet
Painting the
in when
wall
you're
red
ready.
if you want,
Yeah,
dogs, cats, trees,
right,
whatever you want. Yep.
all of that, enjoying your backyard,
Music as loud as you want.
all of that. Aside from 10 o'clock when the neighbors start.
Right.
You do have that,
They
Yeah.
do have
but
local laws.
right, but it is home ownership is definitely the way to go. And now it's there you do have to be able to afford it. I mean
Yes.
there is that because home buyers the first time assistance is wonderful. But if you can't afford it, then that's a whole nother thing. You may have to end up with another job. So, but you also have to have the desire to want to live in a home because you do have to take care of it once you get in it, and it's a responsibility. And
Mhm.
it everything is not for everybody. So, but I think for the ones that want to buy a home and really enjoy the opportunity, I think the first time home buyers program is a wonderful thing. Now, you guys keep mentioning something. I just want to make sure the listeners heard it. It's a special process out there for African Americans or people that are in the community, that kind of conversation I'm hearing. Talk a little bit about that.
So it's the same for everyone, but there is a special pool of money for foundational blacks, and not it, but you have to qualify. So it's not like just anyone can get it.
Okay.
You have to qualify.
And how, what's the
So
qualification? Is a lot?
um,
Well,
George can probably
and this is the reason I love this program so much. I mentioned it earlier, Miss Tracy. Lenders can't sell this program.
no.
They have to get referred by the nonprofit when they go through the education, and they also do a one-on-one financial wellness check. And then they say you may qualify for this program, and then they reach out to the lender to see if you can offer it, and then they suggest and refer you to it. So it's wonderful because if it was anything else, people would be throwing on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X,
Yeah.
whatever. Hey, come give me, I have all this money for you.
Yeah.
But they want this money to be managed by the nonprofits to the persons who really need it within a certain AMI. So the details and the qualifications we don't deal with on our end because this is a program where our clients who have been enrolled and completed the class and the financial one-on-one wellness certificate with one of the great lenders and education providers, they refer them and say, hey, we want to give you this money. And that makes it great. Then we come back to me or whoever he or she is working with, their lender will say, well, let's redo your approval. Let's see what you qualify for. And that's a joyous moment where, hey, this 45,000 or 50,000 wasn't expected.
Wow.
We can now buy something more affordable or
Yes.
keep it at the same. Here's what I always, if you like your price range now, keep it at the same purchase price. You don't have to max it out.
Yeah.
And now you even have more affordable payment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just because you get more money don't need you don't need more house.
No.
You may have more comfort level in your financial stability monthly.
And the nice thing about the program, 30 days after, they have an interview process, and then they
$2,500 more.
$2,500 more, just a check they'll
Twice.
send you. Then 60 days or 90 days later, they call back for your final interview and ask you all these questions, and then they send you another 2,500. So it's really $50,000, and it's forgivable in 5 years.
Wow.
Exactly.
Gee.
We
That's a
come
program
get it.
that you got to get after.
Exactly.
It'd be interesting. We may have to have the person on the show that talks about the benefit and how you can get it. I mean, how do you
Yes.
go about getting, how do you qualify? I guess is what I was trying to
Yes.
say.
Yes.
Well, that's wonderful. And I guess they can just call and find out more through your connection of the whole first time home buyer program and come to your class. And is that
Yes.
where they would find out more information on that particular loan?
No, not on that particular program. No,
Okay.
that comes after the fact. After they've gone to the class and they're registered with the nonprofits. Well, not all, but some of the nonprofits.
And I would suggest you can go to the local, the homeownership center locally
Mm-hmm.
at HOCMN.org.
Okay.
And they have a very thorough website that points you in the right direction to approve lenders, educators, nonprofits, programs out there. And I really want to emphasize some of this money does run out. So don't assume if you
Be
haven't
there
gone through
forever.
this.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And don't assume that you're eligible for this. Talk to your lender. Because if you put some of these together, you have to qualify for all these programs.
Mhm.
And they all have different requirements. But it's like Credit Karma. Great way to look at your credit. Probably not accurate, but a great way to gauge where you're at.
Right.
And the HOCMN.org will offer you, show you the programs, at least give you an idea of what's out there and where you're looking to buy, where there's money available.
Okay, and that's HOCMN.org.
MN.org. Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, check that out because it's definitely a program that I think if you qualify for it, it's going to be a benefit. I mean, who can't use a $50,000 additional
Absolutely.
money towards a down payment? But if you don't qualify, that means you're still in a good place and you still can move forward with that.
Yeah, because they still do the the down payment assistance dollars up to, was it 32 or 36?
Well,
And then CDC is what?
32,000.
32,000. And it right now is like a 3-year pilot, but I know that they're going back to the Capitol to see if they can get that permanent.
Nice. Very
So
nice. Because it's working.
it's a win-win
Yeah,
for everyone.
it's working. Yeah.
And there are programs out there, Miss Tracy, you can go all the way up to $180,000 of income and still get assistance. Just because you make a lot of money doesn't mean you have a lot of money.
Right.
Right.
Life happens. So if you think you make too much money, still reach out to your lender and ask what resources are available. Because
Right.
there's a lot of options out there right now.
Wow, that's 180,000, and you can still benefit. Hey, that's That's putting you up there. Does that mean you got a house full of kids or?
Well, it means you got to buy groceries. Groceries are expensive right now. Kids need groceries. Yeah. And some of you pay back,
Yep.
some of you don't.
Okay.
And when you get to the higher income levels, you pay it back.
Yeah.
But we have high income borrowers, we have high asset borrowers. To have both is kind of like that unicorn right now.
Okay.
But there are options for everybody.
All right. Nice. Well, tell me then if options for everybody that would include the two of you. So, how do lenders and realtors make their money?
Well, if I sell a house, I get compensated. Either by, now we have new laws. Well, we've changed the way things are because of the lawsuits, actually. So I'm either going to get paid by the seller, the seller's broker, or the buyer.
Okay.
Okay.
But not both.
Oh no, not well. I mean, you could have a mix and match, but I can tell you, it's just been business as usual for me.
Mhm.
So I haven't seen any changes at all,
Okay.
except our paperwork's a little bit different.
Right. Right. Okay. And I missed the lawsuit. Is that a long story?
Oh yeah, we don't want to talk about lawsuit. We don't talk about lawsuit. It's they brought a lawsuit. They were thinking people were it used to have the compensation on their MLS.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can no longer advertise that compensation on the MLS. So if you sell a house, excuse me, if you listed your house, you would say, your broker would say, yeah, well, we're gonna list that we'll pay the buyer's broker 2.7% or whatever, whatever it may be. Well, now they don't put anything on there.
Okay.
So we can't do that anymore. So now that you have to pick up the phone and call each broker, are you offering compensation for the sale of this house?
Okay.
So
the free advertising of what you were willing to do is no longer a carrot.
Yes.
Got
yes. But now people are, for me it's just been business as usual.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's just another step. That's okay.
Yeah. Hey, if you're doing things the right way, the rules and things that are put in place for people that aren't don't affect the ones that are doing it the right way in the beginning. So George, how do you get paid? You just get a salary and you don't get paid?
Oh, I haven't had a salary in around 30 years. No. So the mortgage industry is different. There's correspondent lenders, bank and brokers. Some of the mortgage bankers get salary. I'm a correspondent lender. So my company pays me a fee. We don't charge we don't we don't charge anything up front. There is no fee to work with us. Once we close a loan, I get paid by my company.
Okay.
Some banks, brokers, mortgage brokers might charge a fee to work with them. Me personally at CMG, we do not. My company pays me. I should ask for a salary. Think they'll say yes?
Well, they should.
Yeah, I agree. They should. I don't
Been
think.
there long enough. You've proven
You
yourself.
just got there.
Yeah.
Oh, you just got there.
Yeah, but 25 years in 25 years in the industry. But
in the industry.
yes,
Okay,
man. But
that's
no,
fine.
most buyers don't pay anything up front besides the basic appraisal and inspection fees. If people are collecting money from you up front, you may want to ask around.
Oh, well,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's a good thing to do. So, yeah, well, I think, do you have any closing remarks that you like to talk about to the listeners here this afternoon that talk about coming to your classes or choosing you as a realtor or any of this good stuff that you want to make sure that they leave with?
Okay. Well, absolutely. I would love to work I work with everyone, period. But I am really interested in first time home buyers. I really would like for people to start utilizing these funds before they run out. We don't know what the future holds for us within the next couple months or whatever, right? So I want to get as many people in a home as I can. Um, and can I give my information?
You can go right ahead.
And I could be reached at Denise at MazoneRealEstateGroup.com or 612-203-0665. I want to make sure that we are utilizing everything, turning over every rock that we can. I teach at a nonprofit every third Saturday of the month. We have classes. I also am the co-chair of NARAB, which is National Association of Real Estate Brokers, Twin Cities. And we have been doing monthly when we're going out, it's called Unlocking Home Ownership. And that is going straight to the community. And we're talking about these different programs. We have all the nonprofits and stuff are there. And so they can give you a brief overview on what's going on. So we can get you set up and for success and to be a homeowner.
Nice, very nice,
Yes.
very good. Well, good. I certainly hope that this conversation this afternoon stimulates people's minds and gets them to call that number. George, what about you? What are your closing remarks this afternoon?
I wasn't gonna give a selfless plug, but I'm kind of on the spot now. But no.
Wow.
So I also sit on the board of NARAB TC locally. It's narabtc.com. We do the monthly education for down payment assistance. I have a very large and great team in the Twin Cities here at CMG Home Loans. You can find us online. My personal information, I love to operate in the Twin Cities, the Minneapolis St. Paul area. I can reach that 612-710-0910. If it's not me, someone on my team will help y'all hopefully get qualified and find the house of your dreams. But if it's not me, find a lender, find a resource, find a nonprofit to work with. Courageous conversation, we talk about the first step. The most, when you have courageous conversation, the toughest first step is meeting with a lender, meeting with a realtor, telling them about, hey, I got perfect credit, I have bad credit. That's the toughest thing. It's like going to the gym. Once you get there, you're good. If you can make it into the lender's office or real estate office, you've accomplished a lot.
Right.
Make that courageous first step and talk to somebody, nonprofit lender or a realtor. And every month, the third Thursday every month, NARAB TC will be putting on free homeownership pathway to homeownership. Please look it up at narabtc.com. It's free registration.
Nice, nice.
And NARAB TC also helps the first time homebuyer classes for no charge. So if you want to take a first time homebuyer class, NARAB TC is sponsoring it monthly at multiple nonprofits.
Okay. And remind our listeners again what qualifies a first time home buyer.
A few things.
Yeah, okay.
A few things.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So first generation.
Yeah.
I'll start with first generation. Your parents did not own a home,
Right.
or your grandparents did not own a home.
Okay.
However, if I owned a home and my parents never did, they're still considered first generation. So if your child buys a home before you, you can still buy a home as first generation.
Okay.
Now, if your house was taken by foreclosure, you're still considered first generation.
Okay.
First time home buyer, obviously never owned a home, or Miss Tracey, not owned a home in 3 years.
Okay.
And the cool thing about the first generation program, only one of the buyers have to be first generation. They both have to be first time home buyers, but if both persons on the application are first time home buyers and only one is a first generation, you still qualify.
Okay. All right. Nice.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's lots of different ways to be considered first time home buyer and be able to tap into the funds that are out there for first time home buyers.
And you don't have to be a first time home buyer. You can be a step up home buyer. You can even own a home and still get down payment assistance.
Oh, wow. So there's just all kinds of money out there for now.
Yes.
For different reasons.
Yes.
So they just need to check into and to come to where? Where do we come after we hear this program? Where do we come?
Just call us.
Yeah. Again, go to hocmn.org. Go to NARAB TC.
Okay.
Call Denise or I. Talk to someone that's worked with a lender locally. Go to a nonprofit. There's a ton in the Twin Cities.
Okay.
And a lot of people are scared about their credit right off the bat. Take that first step. Your lender will help you with credit repair. You should not be paying people to repair your credit.
No, you shouldn't.
You could be spending that money to pay down your credit and get in a better situation. Plenty of resources.
And can I tell you, and I always tell people, I don't even see your credit. All I find out is how much you qualify for. I don't have to know all of that, because a lot of people are very prideful and it's okay. And I understand,
Especially if they're going to see you later.
Yeah,
Street or in the grocery store, like now she knows all my business.
Yeah, and I don't care about that. I really don't. I don't judge that. Trust me, because I probably have been worse than they have in the past. Who cares, right?
Right.
But I'm just saying, the lender, that's who will know all of your financial information, not the realtor.
Right. Okay.
We just find out how much you can actually qualify for.
Right.
That's it.
And you start with learning how much you can qualify for, so you don't look for houses you can't afford, and you look for houses that you can, and it's all relevant to how
Yes.
much you can get in based upon your interest rates and all that good stuff. So that's the other thing is just listeners, take care of your interests. I mean, your bills. Make sure you keep your interest rates as low as you can by doing the right things along your pathway of being towards home ownership. So I just want to thank both of you for coming out this afternoon and talking to me and talking to our listeners and our viewers and letting them understand more about how to access a realtor and also learn more about a lender, because lender, that's a scary process. I think, Georgia, if they can't contact you, they're going to be really in good shape because you're such a pleasant guy. That's half the battle. It's just being able to reach people that make you feel good about sitting in front of them and spending your money, because it's all about, how much money you're going to put down and how much you can get to put down with what you got to get you into a nice home. So thank you so much this afternoon.
Thank you, Miss
Thanks for
Tracy.
having me.
For more on Tracy's Keeping It Real and learning more about down payment homeowner assistance, check us out online. We're at Facebook, we're at Instagram. Also, you can find us on the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder website. To listen to this program again or to read about more about what we're going to be writing about on home ownership programs, check us out. Until next time, remember, Tracy's Keeping It Real. We look to see you soon.